We're obviously tracking Hurricane Florence very closely. We're keeping an eye on it. We're going to come back to it. But this next story we need to tell you about, it would be stunning, frankly, at any time. At this moment, though, it's hard to even kind of find the words, because even as millions of people here are living what could be a devastating, potentially for some, a deadly hurricane, President Trump spoke out again today about Hurricane Maria and Puerto Rico, tweeting, should point out, from the comforts of the executive mansion. He had this to say to anyone who watched a parent die or buried a husband or maybe even a child. And I'm quoting here, 3,000 people, the president tweeted, did not die in the two hurricanes that hit Puerto Rico. When I left the island after the storm had hit, they had anywhere from 6 to 18 deaths. As time went by, it did not go up by much. Then a long time later, they started to report really large numbers, like 3,000. The president went on to say, this was done by the Democrats in order to make me look as bad as possible when I was successfully raising billions of dollars to help rebuild Puerto Rico. If a person died for any reason, like old age, just add them onto the list. Bad politics. I love Puerto Rico. Well, his words were not an accident. They are, in fact, a lie. And the starkest version yet of a cruel series of self-congratulatory statements and tweets in which a tragedy for millions becomes, by the president's way of thinking, a triumph of one. A triumph of one, because you might remember the other day he called his administration's response to Maria, quote, an unsung success. Don't tell that to Miriam Rodriguez, because her husband, Natalio, was on a ventilator. When they lost power, he lost air, he died. Miriam was not the only one who watched a loved one die unnecessarily. Yet to the president, it's as though her husband, Natalio Rodriguez, never even existed at all. Same for the thousands of other families, American families who lost loved ones. American families who today had to listen to their president lie about how their loved one died. It is unthinkable, really, or at least it should be. The death toll, 2,975, was arrived at by a study that was commissioned by Puerto Rico's governor. It was done by the nonpartisan School of Public Health at George Washington University. They worked on it for months. It follows an earlier survey from a team at Harvard, which estimated nearly 4,700 excess deaths in Maria's aftermath. The George Washington study, which the university, by the way, backed up and reaffirmed today, found that people died from unsafe drinking water, heat, lack of power to run ventilators and kidney machines, lack of access to basic medical care, treatable conditions, horrible ways to die. Horror that is invisible, it seems, to at least the president of the United States. And even some of his staunch supporters are not behind him on this. The question is, what does he see that even they don't? Well, we got one answer late today from White House spokesman Hogan Gidley, a statement trying to explain what the president tweeted. I want to read it to you. It reads, as the president said, every death from Hurricane Maria is a horror. Before, during, and after the two massive hurricanes, the president directed the entire administration to provide unprecedented support to Puerto Rico. President Trump was responding to the liberal media and the San Juan mayor, who sadly have tried to exploit the devastation by pushing out a constant stream of misinformation and false accusations. Now, keeping them honest, that statement is trying to make the incomprehensible somehow understandable, as if it were somehow normal for presidents to say this sort of thing. It is not. The statement ignores the very words that it purports to defend. The president did not tweet that every death is a horror. He made a mockery of what people saw with their own eyes, what local funeral directors, medical examiners, reporters on the scene, researchers, and first responders all saw firsthand. Americans died from Hurricane Maria and the inadequate response to it. We may not know all their names, but I can tell you their families do. What we know for certain is that the President of the United States has disrespected the dead of Puerto Rico today, and he disrespected the living who will live the rest of their lives with the pain of loss and the pain of knowing that their president, in his heart, does not see their loss for what it truly, truly is. San Juan's Mayor, Carmen Yulín Cruz, joins me now. Mayor Cruz, I can't imagine somebody who has lost a loved one in Puerto Rico hearing the President of the United States saying that nearly 3,000 Puerto Ricans did not die in the wake of the storm because of the storm. What are you hearing? What went through your mind when you saw what the President tweeted?
Well, Anderson, to politicize a death count in the wake of Hurricane Florence is despicable. This is a new low even for President Trump. Now, it is to be expected. The president has this ability to make everything about him and to try and belittle and diminish and call fake news or fake facts anything that does not agree with the spin that he's trying to put on things. People in Puerto Rico are irate, they're furious, but mostly they're appalled. They can't even understand, first of all, why for the President of the United States facts don't seem to matter and truth don't seem to matter. You know, he talks about the Democrats being the ones that did this to him, and he includes myself. It's almost as if he suffers from the world is against me complex or a conspiracy phobia. You know, no one has to make the president look bad when it comes to Puerto Rico. He did that by himself when he neglected to do what he had to do. And my fear now is that rather than focusing himself on North Carolina and South Carolina, that he continues this tirade of self-accolades, and that he continues to think that he's doing everything right, and people will die in those two states because of that.
You know, I mean, if anything, first of all, the 2,975, that's probably a conservative estimate. If anything, the government has, you know, stuck to an artificially low death toll of 64 people for really this past year. And it's only, and in fact, according to the researchers from Harvard, they said that the government made it difficult for them to even get access to mortality statistics. It made their survey all the more difficult. The government of Puerto Rico did support this GW study, and the governor has made this the official death toll. But it's, you know, the idea that this is a number that just has come out of the blue. I mean, this is a legitimate scientific study, and there have been other surveys and other reporting that back it up.
Not only that, Anderson, there's one data point that unless the president wants to call FEMA a bunch of liars, he cannot deny. FEMA received in the past month 2,471 applications for funeral assistance. So at least they have to acknowledge 2,471 deaths. Now, to add insult to injury, in this unsung success fantasy book that the president is trying to write, FEMA only approved 75 of those applications for funeral assistance from the 2,471 that people applied for. So if he doesn't want to believe the 2,975 from George Washington University, and he doesn't want to believe the more than 3,000 from Harvard University, he should at least understand that the fact that his own government processed 2,471 requests for funeral assistance from FEMA and approved only 75, that number should at least burn in his soul. Somebody should really, some of his advisors, somebody from the White House, should try and save the president from himself, because he continues to dig himself into a hole. And again, in a day where all the attention should have been to Florence, he continues to try to be undignified by tweeting and bullying the people of Puerto Rico. Well, we will not stand for it. Yeah. President has been delusional. He continues to be harassing the people of Puerto Rico, and enough is enough.
Mayor Carmen Yulín Cruz, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. I want to introduce you to Carmen Cruz, no relation to the mayor. Her mother died in Puerto Rico waiting for an operation at a hospital that ended up losing power. Carmen, thank you for being with us. I'm so sorry for your loss. I can't imagine what it's like to be a person who lost, in this case, your mom, in the wake of the storm, to then be told by the President of the United States that your mom didn't die as a result of the storm. What went through your mind?
I'm disgusted. It's so disgusting because that's my mom. And prior to that, I lost my aunt too. So it's very hurtful to me to read that, and it's just appalling. It's disgusting. I cannot believe somebody in that power can easily just talk like that. And what does he gain on that? That's just more disrespect on his own, that people are not going to have anything on him. I can't stand him. He's just... I'm just without words, because you don't do that. Basically, you're telling me that we're not human, we're not part of anything. But I see what's going on in North Carolina. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I see what's going on in North Carolina, and I appreciate that, you know, they're ahead and they're there and they're waiting to help others. Why couldn't that happen in Puerto Rico? That right there tells me a lot that...
If you could just tell us a little bit about your mom, and I know it's hard, but just so people understand what happened to so many people in the wake of this storm, how she lost her life.
Well, she was had to go to the hospital because she gained water in her lungs. So when she went to the hospital, she stood there. At the day that she died, she was supposed to get the operation, but there was no power. The power had gone. The generator broke. So, and meanwhile, while they were waiting for it to get fixed, she had 3 heart attacks at the same time because of the water she regained inside her body. It couldn't take it. So her body just gave up, and she passed away. And she didn't have, because there's no resources for her at all.
Tell me your mom's name, and just tell me a little bit about her in case the president is watching, just so he knows your mom's name and knows about the life she lived, not just how she lost her life.
Oh, sure. She was beautiful. She was awesome. Her name was Isabel Rivera Gonzalez. She was married to my dad for 33 years, and they moved to Puerto Rico. She was energetic. She loved to dance. She loved to hear music. She loved to cook. Always there for us. She dropped everything for a dime. And you know what? She had 10 to 15 more years in her life because she comes from a strong Puerto Rican family. Her brother right now is 93. And her mother and her dad passed at 100. So she had more to life than I can even imagine. That's how strong and beautiful she was. And she loved to hear music. She would always tell me, "Come on, Tina, let's go dance, let's go listen to music." And I would sit there and we'll just listen to her to dance. She was just beautiful. And she would go with her brothers would be there too, and they would just dance and mingle and, you know, have a little cocktail. But it was always about to have fun. And she loved dominoes. You can give it up to her. She can beat you in dominoes anytime. Because she was awesome at it. Yes.
Well,
always with her brothers,
Carmen,
too, every
I'm so
weekend.
sorry. I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm so sorry we're talking under these circumstances. And I appreciate you telling us about your mom a little bit and letting people know about her and about her life. Thank you, Carmen.
I thank you. I appreciate it, Anderson. Thank you so much.
Well, up next.